back again at the end. So what I might do is I might invite Lara, if that's okay. Thank indeed, Abigail, for that, and thanks to Jim. So that just brings you up to speed with some of the things that we had been looking at, the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. It's a kind of it's not the most glamorous of topics, but if it comes to fruition, it can be hard hitting and just as good as some of the stuff that we've heard this evening. So I'm going to ask Lara if she wouldn't mind just rounding off the evening by giving us some thoughts, some final thoughts really on ethical consumerism. And we might, if anybody has any final thoughts or comments, we might come to that at the end. We're almost at the end. We're well ahead of time. So the next 4 hours are yours, Lara. Off you go.
Okay, thanks, Brian. I'd like to share my screen if that's all right. I'm not sure if you can enable me to do that. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Lovely. Thank you. Okay, so just bear with me a second, folks. Okay, so although the date has passed, thankfully, I want to say a few words about consumerism, and I've just lost my own screen there. Can you see my screen okay, guys?
No, you need to share your seconds. You need to share the other part, if you know what I mean.
Sorry about that.
Just click on one, and you might have it actually. Just click on to the next one.
There we go. Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay, perfect.
You have it now, yeah.
Okay, so I just want to say a few words about Black Friday. The original use of the term had much more negative connotations than maybe it has today, although perhaps for many of us it does have negative connotations today, but it originated in Philadelphia in the 1960s, and it was a term used by the police at the time to describe the absolute chaos in terms of traffic and people traffic that happened when suburban shoppers arrived into town to do their pre-Christmas shopping. So that's the kind of original idea of Black Friday. And obviously then it grew legs. So you can just see some images here of Black Friday. So in 2022, Irish shoppers spent 26 million and over 18,000 euros per minute online on Black Friday, according to AIB. And in 2021, there was 5,700 euros a minute spent on clothes alone on Black Friday, a 261% increase in value compared to a normal day. To look at perhaps some of the environmental impacts. Last year's UK Black Friday sales generated 429,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions from product deliveries alone, the equivalent to 435 return flights from London to New York. And meanwhile, 80% of products bought at Black Friday end up in landfill, are incinerated or recycled poorly. And I came across this image. It's from the Atacama Desert in Chile. And new dunes are appearing every year, but they're not made of sand. So this satellite image is of dumped clothing. 39,000 tons of unwanted and unrecyclable clothing are dumped in the Atacama Desert every year. And they can take hundreds of years to decompose. So instead of Black Friday, another day that takes place on the same date is Buy Nothing Day. It originated it was celebrated officially for the first time in Canada in 1992. And it got some criticism, particularly in the US after the September the 11th attacks in 2001, where it was seen as a protest against modernity and unpatriotic. And it was thought that encouraging consumerism would help to revive the economy after the attacks on the Twin Towers. So I just wanted to share a few kind of slightly humorous images from the Buy Nothing campaign, turning consumerism and even literally turning your shopping trolley on its head. Just to share this with you for a moment. I want to talk a little bit about some alternative gift giving ideas. So like Aidan said, if you're going to shop fairly and buy fair trade. Alternative gifts are ones that could be stocking fillers for somebody else's stocking. So I'm looking at the global type gifts like Oxfam Unwrapped, Trócaire Gifts of Change, and Concern Worldwide Gifts, to name just a few. So international NGOs who are providing, I suppose, things that they would normally be providing anyway to their partner organizations and beneficiaries, but wrapped up in a sense as a Christmas gift that you can give to somebody else. So you've got your solar light for 20 euros and a gift of chicks for 8 euros. So they're just some really nice alternative ideas. I just looked up different fair trade gifts, and these screens can be shared with everybody at the end and in the recording. I also borrowed from the ethical gift guide for 2022, which Aidan mentioned is being updated for this year. So there's some nice links there. ohmygood.ie, unbound.ie for fair trade leather products, evergreen.ie for fair trade foods, and lunasa.co. That's not a typo, it's an unusual ending. So www.lunasa.co. So some nice fair trade products there as well. This one was brought to my attention by Tony Pike, so thanks for that. So Rethink Ireland, who provide funding and training for social enterprises. And so they've got a list of different meaningful gifts that you could give this year at Christmas. So you can buy a unique gift online, for example, GIY, the horticulture organization who are encouraging urban food growing. So you can buy a grow box from GIY. Loaf Pottery have mugs made by people with intellectual disabilities. Shuttle Knit is a knitting project with a group of traveller women. So there's lots of different options there. That's just a very short summary of a much larger list, but well worth a look. And I suppose just to kind of invert the Christmas tree triangle and to look at the hierarchy, I suppose, of gift purchasing. So you can get people experience gifts, vouchers, homemade gifts, but as a last resort, the very bottom of the triangle there is to buy. So you might give memories, you might give up your time, upcycle, buy secondhand, make, buy ethically, or buy as a last resort. And just to finish off, I thought this was quite a nice thing that I came across. It's the Ignatian Solidarity Network, and they have an Advent Simplicity Challenge. So you can just sign up at the link there below, and they give practical tips for living simply and opportunities for reflection. And it's just kind of a nice Advent themed thing that you can sign up for. So I think that is it for me. I'm just going to stop sharing and I'll hand back at this point to Brian.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much indeed, Lara. There's loads of different gifts and loads of different ideas there. And I noticed too that I'd also heard some fact where really there's only 2% of what they tell you is on sale in Black Friday is actually of value. The rest of it is not really of value, but that's what they're trying to encourage you to buy into. So there's an awful lot there. And in fact, there's probably an awful lot that we've heard and seen tonight, starting with Aidan in Fair Trade, whom we're very, very grateful to. And thankfully, we had the chance to hear from him twice. And then in between times, we heard then from Ciara on Laudate Deum, which is the Pope's next missile, if you like, or emissary, to try and explain to us why we need to there needs to be greater urgency and less complacency around what we do for our environment and climate change, all happening in times of COP. And then we heard from Sister Anatolia, who told us what it's like living in Africa, where she lives and where she works. And in particular, she gave the experience of the Chihota tribe and the women who are there, who are, she said, not victims of climate change, or they're victims of climate change, but not actors. And then we heard from Jim, who spoke about the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. And we heard from Abigail, who spoke about the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. And then finally, we heard from Lara, who rounded it all off by referencing for us some possible ideas that we might take home in terms of what we might do at Christmas when we consider who exactly is it that pays for Christmas. So in thanking all of those whom I've just mentioned, I cannot thank them enough for all the effort that's gone into making tonight a night that has been one of keen interest and timeless given COP, and of course in terms of being Christmas. We're part of AEFJN, 9 congregations. We are looking for more. So if you thought that maybe your congregation had an interest or a sister or brothers or priests or volunteers in Africa, we'd love to hear from you, so that we meet once a month and we make little efforts like this one, and we're hopefully going to make a few more in 2024. So if you thought you might like to join us, we'd love to hear from you. But just before we go, I might hand over to Jerry Ford, who has been keeping an eye on the comments and on the questions. So Jerry, if there are any final thoughts or final comments, you might just let us know what there is there, if there's anything at all.
I suppose one thing that jumped out at me was in Sister Anatolia's presentation. She started talking, she mentioned loss and damage, which we're hearing about in COP. But her take on it was their loss. In other words, the people in Africa, because of our damage, the damage that we are causing by the way we consume. And I see here Tony Pike has had a comment as well. She said, I enjoy the interpretation of fair trade's play on the word fair and how it impacts on us and others. I feel that proposing fair play in how we propose to consume might be a good educational focus moving forward. But she did ask a question then is, do we focus on consumers changing their behavior, or do we focus on lobbying government to force behavior change? I would suggest that we do both. But I like her idea that for all of us going forward, emphasizing fair, and that ties in, of course, with fair trade and being fair as a way to redress the loss that people are experiencing by us causing less damage.
That's perfect, Jerry. It's probably a good note on which to finish. So just to let you know that the very first Christmas present you've received is 10 minutes early tonight, because we're finishing 10 minutes earlier than scheduled. So that's the first gift. And the second question I'd ask is, well, who exactly does pay for Christmas? And I would respectfully say that it's the Chihota women from Harare in Zimbabwe are paying for Christmas. Those women and others like them suffering from climate change. So we're hopeful that when you close down tonight, that some of what we said will stay with you, that you might reflect on even a simple comment, a word, a phrase. You might tell somebody else a little bit about what you heard, so that when you get the recording of tonight's webinar and the resources that we will put together, and we will get them to you before Christmas, that you can send off, and that's your message tonight, Anatolia said, if you can press home the message of this webinar tonight. So when you get the recording, maybe you might send it as a gift to another or share it with others in your congregation. So if that was the message that we left you with tonight, we'll just leave you by saying thank you so very much for registering, for coming, for taking part, for listening, and for, I suppose, being there when somebody had a message to give, and hopefully we're asking that you might pass it on. So to all in AEFJN who've contributed and worked so hard behind the scenes, I just want to say thank you very much, and to wish them a very happy Christmas. But I will also take this opportunity to wish all of you the very best for Christmas, and in particular those who are paying for Christmas. So I'll stop the recording, but what we'll do is we'll leave the line open for a minute or two if people want to say hello or chat or say, oh, hello, Mary, how are you? I've seen you. All right, I'll stop the recording, so thanks a million.